Good evening, everyone. I'd like to begin our services. On behalf of Richard's family, we would like to thank all of you for your kind words, thoughts, and prayers many of you have been giving us in this time. I know Laura and Bennett are graciously appreciative of the love you have given. For those of you who do not know me, I am Richard's brother-in-law, Matthew. I had the great honor to know Richard, albeit only briefly. Despite that short time, I was fortunate to meet a man that, as many of you know, was energetic and compassionate, both to the highest degree. I first met Richard when Michelle and I drove to Collingswood to help Laura and her mother find a restaurant for her baby shower. I thought I was just coming down to hang out with Richard and his father-in-law. Instead, as soon as we arrived, I was made aware that Richard, Bob, and I were going to hop in a car and drive to Philly to get some cheesesteaks. Now, for those of you who don't know, I am Jewish, and there is a basic saying in my family about almost every Jewish holiday. We suffered, we survived, let's eat. Except one, Yom Kippur, the day we fast. Guess what day it was? So, of course, immediately upon learning that I would not be able to have a cheesesteak, Richard, in his typical way, just continued to say, "I feel bad. Are you sure you're okay with this?" He continued all the way down and back, and even through the eating of a sandwich. He actually made me feel bad because I wasn't sure if he was enjoying his cheesesteak. Seriously, I know he did. But that was Rich, always caring about making others happy. He was a great man, great husband, father, son, brother, uncle. He will be sorely missed, but always remembered. At this time, I am inviting his wife, Laura, to say a few words.
Hello. Hello, hello. Can everyone hear me? I'm kind of shorter than that. I'm Laura, Rich's wife, the quieter half of Rich and Laura, which is pretty, easy to be the quieter half of Rich. When I first sat down to think of what I wanted to say to you, I had nothing. Still have nothing. There's no way to put into words what he means to me. He's been with me through 22 years of life, and a lot happens in 22 years, and there's nothing I can say today to do that justice. I can't explain the immensity of his loss or the heartbreak I feel when I think of Bennett growing up without his dad. I can't explain it. I won't. Instead, I want to talk about cancer. Not about the darkness or the pain it caused us. I want to talk about it as a gift. I'm not removed enough from all of this to see it as a gift to me just yet. Maybe one day I'll get there, but today is not that day. I'm still of the mindset that if given the chance, I'd pack that shit up and send it back. Because it wasn't fun, and it was hard. However, I can't do that, so I just want to explain what I mean by gift. It's the gift of being able to see and witness the nature of humanity. In all its darkness, you can find light, and Rich always did, and he taught me how to do the same. It took me almost a full week to finally look through his phone. No naked selfies is good. I was worried. I just couldn't do it. I thought it'd be too upsetting. And I was pleasantly surprised. There were messages from friends to say goodbye. There was a voicemail from one of his many amazing doctors expressing his condolences. And then there was a message from one of his nurses, Paul. Paul is essentially a stranger to us. He was Rich's nurse for only a few days, and I personally only met him once. He's a young guy, someone we would probably hang out with outside the hospital. So the day I did meet Paul, I walked in. They were BSing about movies, go figure. That's all Rich wanted to talk about. He was texting him graphic images and videos of his leg. It was actually a nice day, felt normal, and I always remembered that, and apparently Paul did too. And on Rich's phone, when I went through it, this is what I saw. And this says more about Rich than I can ever explain in my 22 years with him. So, this stranger Paul writes, "To whomever may read this, my name is Paul. I've had the privilege of getting to know this amazing man. Only a few days as his nurse, but the impression that was left on me is lasting. I know he's been battling a hell of a lot in the ICU, and if anything can be said, he is a fighter. I deal with a lot of terminal patients, and when you do that on a daily basis, we put a guard up to protect ourselves, to not allow ourselves to get too close. But I'm here saying that I've been moved by my experience with Rich, someone who has gone through all that life can throw, and still stay positive, have a good sense of humor, talk about good movies and shows, keep a smile on his face. It's a type of character that when I'm tested, I wish and pray that I will have. Rich, you've left an impression on me that will last until my dying day, and I have no doubt that your child will grow up to be both as strong as you and your wife. Strong character is bred. We can leave lasting impressions on people, and this is one that has touched my life personally, and I've been honored to get to know you, even for a short time." That's someone who met Rich maybe 3 times. And that's the effect he had on people. And that was the gift. And that is the gift. To see humanity as it is, not ever denying the darkness, but always leaving room for light. And that's what I'm going to try to do, and that's what I want everyone to try to do, because that's the way he lived his life. So if anything can come from this, it's that, okay? We're going to all agree here. We're going to leave room for the light, okay?
Rich's father, Doug, wrote something, but asked that I read it for him. So in his own words, I will do so now. Richard is my son. He was a very happy-go-lucky baby, just like his son. When he went to school, we, his mother, Rose, and me, were always getting calls because of his smiling and joking in class. One time he got yelled at by the teacher, and he smiled at her, so we got called. All through his life, our house was full of his friends. All the jobs he had when he was a kid, we were always told what a great kid he was and a hard worker. Even though he didn't like a few of his jobs, he still worked his best. High school football, he got the Rudy Award because he never gave up. Then he got a good job, finished college, and met great people, all that tell me what a great guy Rich is. I am very proud of what he accomplished in life, and if he was still here, I know he would have conquered the world. My tears will never stop flowing for him. My son, I will carry in my heart for life. Through my life, I had many hurdles that I had to overcome, but I always managed to get over them no matter what. Now there is a hurdle in front of me that I don't think I can make it over this time. I think sometimes that God has put this hurdle in front of me to see how much I can take. I had stage 4 cancer, and I should not be here, yet here I am. Why didn't God take me instead of my son? This is the hardest thing a parent should never have to deal with. Richard walked into the hospital happy-go-lucky. He was at the Shore House as happy as always. Then it was all downhill from there. I know he suffered so much. We prayed that he would come through it, but it went downhill every day. I know it was the best for him, but that doesn't ease the hurt. Rich, I see you in Bennett. Bennett is a very happy kid, just like you always were. We will see to it that Bennett grows up just like you, giving love to everyone. I love you, Rich. I miss you. Dad. I was asked to tell another great story of Rich, but this one includes... Huh?
Not for nothing, you're killing all my material.
Alright. I was asked to tell another story of Rich.
He was asked not to.
But this one includes his brother Doug. Another first for me, meeting the entire Stark family was at Doug and their Uncle Randy and Jerry's birthday bash 2 years ago. Doug, Richard, and Michelle wanted to throw a huge party and immediately dove into figuring out food, decorations, everything. Well, sure enough, a fight between the three broke out over where to order food from. Thankfully, they all agreed on a restaurant to cater, and I thought, okay, food was resolved. How quickly I learned I was wrong. 2 days later, Doug would call and say, I just got off the phone with Rich. Can you talk to him? I was telling him we have more than enough food. Besides, I just ordered a 6-foot hero. 20 minutes later, Rich would call and say, can you talk to Doug? There is going to be way too much food. We do not need a 6-foot hero. The catering was more than enough. Besides, I just bought 100 meatballs. So there you have it. We have a birthday party, catered food, a 6-foot hero, and 100 meatballs. At this time, his brother Doug would like to say a few words.
Just for the record, the meatballs were still left. First, I'm going to apologize because my language or whatever happens, I'm not responsible. I'm grieving. This is the hardest thing I ever had to write. Rich has been by my side through every life-altering event I've ever had. He was always the calm, collective, and rational one. Richard was the person who knew how to ride out and survive the storm, along with providing direction, reasoning, sarcasm, humor to every situation, whether I wanted it or not. I could really use him here today. Growing up, Rich's big brother was strange. You're supposed to look up to your big brother, but with us it was different. I looked up to, admired Rich. I mean, who wouldn't? Even at a young age, he just had an attitude about him. He was the kind of attitude like he had the world figured out and nothing was going to get in his way. When he felt it was right, he stood his ground. Whether it was my father, mother, teacher, or principal, it didn't matter. He talked without hesitation, defending his points, standing his ground, and by the end, he usually had the last word and sometimes even an apology from his adversary. With Rich, the impossible is possible. No matter what he did or how much trouble he got in, his smile, confidence, and charisma just made him a force to be reckoned with. I remember Richard graduated high school and bought a video camera with money that he made from working at Rickles. My mother had told my father over the phone, and my father flipped out. And when I say flipped out, I mean flipped out. I could hear my father through the phone from across the kitchen. I'm paying for his beeping school, and he buys a beeping video camera? He is taking the beeping thing back tonight, isn't allowed to leave the house till I get home. Now, if that was me, I would have been cowering in the corner all afternoon, but not Rich. He stayed. Next page. He stayed there with that smile on his face playing video games. Finally, my dad's truck pulled up in the driveway and my father comes storming into the house. I waited anxiously. Who doesn't like to see his brother get screamed at? Rich then sat there still smiling, almost welcoming the altercation. As my father screamed, Rich just smiled and made his points. My father screamed and cursed some more, and Rich sternly but lovingly made his defense. By the end of the argument, I'm pretty sure my dad bought the video camera. That camera taught me a few very important lessons. First and most important, Richard had it figured out, and it was nothing ever would be out of his reach. Number two, even though there's a big sign on the topless sunbathing deck of a cruise ship that says no cameras, If you're with Richard, that doesn't apply to you. All you have to do is walk up and say, smile for the camera. They will laugh at you, especially the ones with the British accents. Number 3, if your brother walks into your cabin with a video camera and a strange girl happens to walk out of your bathroom, he will videotape it, and that will be the first video he shows your girlfriend when you get back. That was, she just had to use the bathroom. Everyone who knew Rich knew there was something special about the way he talked and the passion behind his stories that drew you in. Whether it was listening to him describe his new favorite television show, a new restaurant he had found, or a new hobby he had taken up, you were mesmerized and wanted to see it, try it, or do it. I can't tell you how many times conversations with him led my life into a direction that it would never have been if it wasn't for a story from him. Then it was Rich's young at heart spirit, or the fact that he actually never grew up. Still not sure which one it was. But whatever one it was an amazing sight to see. Watching him and my son with the lights off and headlamps on, running up and down floors in his house, looking for mice and squirrels. Rich screaming, let's go check the attic, let's go check the basement. Braden anxiously following him, but never more than a step behind. For what seemed like hours, the two ran up and down stairs in the same spots, looking for same traps. Uncle Richie never showing a hint of being bored or tired, and Braden anxiously anticipating the time when he actually found a mouse or squirrel. I'm not sure if they ever found a mouse or squirrel, but they did find a bond that very few people were ever lucky enough to see. Then came the moment that Rich was made for. January 20th, 2014, 7:10 a.m. Little blonde-haired, blue-eyed baby was born, and Rich's life was complete. Rich figured out a way to multiply all of his great attributes tenfold, and do this all with no sleep. His stories got more intense, his energy multiplied, his drive and desire to control a world which he lived blew the roof off the place. He was going to be the world's best dad, and nothing was going to stand in his way. That little boy was Richard's world and greatest accomplishment. There was no better sight to see than watching Richard with Bennett in the ergo doing his normal week's worth of activities in a 4-hour period. By the age of 1, I'm pretty sure Bennett had rebuilt the bathroom, baked bread, went golfing, learned Muay Thai, built a coffee table out of pallets, along with helping a family or friend move, and then carrying an old woman's groceries down halfway across town for her. Rich somehow had found a way to do it all, and even made changing shitty diapers and being woke up in the middle of the night to a screaming baby sound interesting and desirable. I could go on for hours with stories about my brother, but I will end it here. Over the past few days, I have been reading all the great Facebook posts which got me thinking and then thinking some more, and I came up with this. The reason we all loved Rich so much was because Rich brought us the child out in each and every one of us. He made us feel young, pushed us in directions that we would never have dreamed about taking ourselves. So I'm going to ask 2 favors from everyone that knew Richard. First one, anytime you see Bennett, tell him about his dad. Tell him a crazy story that Rich did. Tell him about something that Richard inspired you to do. Let Richard's pride and joy know Let Richard's pride and joy know who his dad was and what his dad was about. Secondly, once a day, once a week, once a month, whenever you feel like it, I want you to ask yourself, what would Richard do? We have all seen them TV shows where they show a person with the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other. Let Richard use that Muay Thai stuff he's been taking 5 days a week for 10 years to get rid of both of them. And then let Rich guide you in the direction he would go. Carry the old woman's groceries to her house. Run the race. Swim across the river. Climb that mountain. Push that 400-pound butcher block 4 miles down the road. If you can dream it, you can do it. Let Richard guide you to feeling young and really live life just as he did. Let's let Richard's memory live on and live life the Rich way.
At this time, Richard's sister, Michelle, is going to come say a few words.
She can talk now?
I'm not stopping.
Hi. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Rich's baby sister, Michelle. Many would think that being the only girl and the youngest in the family would give me some extra doting privileges. But with Rich as my brother, that was not the case. He clearly took the spotlight, charming the hearts of both my Aunt Jenny and my mother. When talking about my brother, my mother would often refer to him as my Richie. Richie's sweet-talking ways got him out got him out of the most mundane household tasks, and with little effort, I might add. Routinely, I'd help my mother clean the house, and to be honest, I usually complained the entire time, barking about the trinkets and the clutter that were making my cleaning job extra lengthy and unmanageable. By the end of the afternoon, my complaining left my mother aggravated and wishing she had done it all by herself. That's when Richard would breeze in. Through the kitchen on his way out the door, my mom would say, "Hey Richie, can you take apart the light and clean it for me?" And in his most charming, Richie way, he'd kiss her on the cheek and say, "Yeah, sure, Ma, later, when I get back." Then he'd be out the door and on to his next adventure. My mother would turn to me in her most irritated tone and say, "Now why can't you be more like your brother Richie? He's so sweet." My mother knew he would probably never get around to cleaning the light, but she was happy with his tone of sincerity and the illusion of attentiveness that he created just for her. But Richard's charming ways didn't stop there, especially with my Aunt Jenny living down the road. To help out my aunt and uncle, I would often go food shopping. They were always grateful and complimentary about my efforts, until Richard would swing by. My brother dropped in about once a month with a few bags of produce from ShopRite, and that would be enough to move him to top-notch status. After each visit from Rich, my aunt would turn to me, hunch over, and whisper, "You know, Rich always knows how to pick out the perfect fruit, and his vegetables, well, they're just the freshest." That's because he takes his time. He doesn't rush shopping like you do. I'm not sure how he did it with such little effort, but he had them all under his spell for sure. In 2014, Rich's sweet son Bennett was born. Everyone knew my brother would be the most wonderful father. But it was when I finally saw him holding his son next to the kitchen sink one afternoon that I learned parenting had actually turned my brother into an Italian grandmother. There Rich was in full baby bouncing mode, cradling his son in his arms, never putting him down, all the while kissing him from head to toe, repeatedly whispering in his ear every 5 seconds, "Dada loves you, Dada loves you." Bennett was cherished, and it was beautiful. At 3 months old, Bennett could even be found in his Bjorn sack wrapped around Rich's chest like a baby koala, clinging to him while together they made homemade pizza. I can still see the image of Bennett's head completely covered in flour as he kneaded the dough. Rich didn't waste any of his precious Bennett time, and it was clear that both of them loved every minute of it. When Rich was diagnosed with cancer back in March, my husband Matt and I were fortunate to spend a lot of our time with Rich, Laura, and Bennett. It was our pleasure and our honor to do so. During that time, Rich was never defined by his treatment, and his character shined through in every situation. Dr. Kara Wright, my brother's urologist, was regularly charmed by Richard. When she would walk into his room for his daily check-ins at the hospital, she was always greeted with, "Hey doctor, how are you doing this morning?" His glance lingering there, genuinely waiting to hear her response. After about 25 minutes of conversation, she'd say, "As much as I love chatting with you, I do have other urine samples I need to check out this morning." After his first surgery, Rich tried to use his charisma to get the ICU nurse to let him drink water a day before the post-surgical protocol allowed, saying, "Listen, nurse, you don't understand. I know you like your patients to wait a full 24 hours to drink liquids, but I have an iron stomach. I really do. I'll be fine, trust me." Although he didn't get his water, by the end of the day, all the young ICU nurses could be found hanging out in Richard's room like it was a college dorm. On one occasion, he even persuasively tried to prove to them that running a marathon was much harder than going through 4 rounds of chemo. The nurses just smirked and let him finish his sales pitch. That was Rich, always humble and always happy. But I truly learned the depth of Rich's positive attitude while we were eating dinner at his house one night. He said, You know, Laura and I were talking, and we realized we're like the perfect family to get hit with cancer. No, just hear me out, really. 1, we both work from home. 2, we have really good health insurance. 3, I have built-in sick time. 4, we have family regularly coming down to help out. And 5, we have a nanny at home. Do you realize how many people don't have those things? That is my brother Richard, always combing through and finding a bright spot where others would find none. As you leave here tonight, I ask that you find some way, big or small, to honor my brother and his spirit. Maybe you'll dig a little deeper to find something positive to hold on to when you're faced with a less than desirable circumstance. If you find yourself struggling to connect to someone at a social function, maybe you'll look more closely to find some common ground or a new layer of compassion. Or best of all, maybe you'll delve into your passion to find something a bit more outrageous, and live life a bit more full. It's in those moments that you'll be living a little more like Richard, and my brother will be there with you enjoying your ride. Thank you.
Now we will call up Richard's sister-in-law, Robin.
Rich was always coming up with some crazy plans that would involve him doing something dangerous or stupid or impossible, but somehow made it look easy and like second nature, maybe even smart. I assumed if anything would bring us to the situation, it would be that one of those plans would backfire. His final words would be, "Laura, relax, I got this." Because that was Rich, living fast and loud and not wasting a second for doubt. He became a master at anything he tried his hand. In the past few days, there have been countless times that I've had a question and think, oh, I'll just ask Rich. I was getting sad about all that he had left to teach us and all that he had left to learn. But he had already taught me so much, for which I would like to thank him. Thank you for making me laugh and think and question and know I can do all three at the same time. Thank you for teaching me that mashed potatoes can come from a box. Thank you for teaching me to diffuse anger but explode with excitement. That it's possible to have a spine and a heart, to be passionate but still diplomatic. Thank you for showing me that there is enough time in the day to pursue your interests, meet your responsibilities, still watch every TV show or movie, whether they're terrible or phenomenal. Thank you for teaching me what a man should be, so that I was able to recognize it when I met my husband. Thank you for taking such good care of my sister and nephew. Thank you for loving them in a way that will stay with them forever and continue to influence everything they do. In return for all that you taught me, promise to continue your legacy of love and laughter. I will help support, protect, and entertain Laura and Bennett. So Rich, relax. We got this.
Our next speaker is like a member of the family. I had the pleasure of meeting him at Christmas Eve almost 3 years ago now. Jerry.
Richard truly was the hero of his own movie. He was everybody's best friend. He was every family member's favorite relative and every child's favorite uncle. He was a loving husband and father. He was the person who everybody wanted on their team in work, sports, and life. He was a person, when he walked into a room, everybody gravitated to him because he had a warm smile and the natural ability to make everybody feel like they belonged. He was very fair, logical, a great listener, and served as everyone's therapist, problem solver, and confidant. Richard was gifted with an amazing sense of humor and charisma. He was an amazing storyteller with the rare ability to turn a serious drama like his college classmate getting arrested for statewide political corruption into a laughed-out comedy. He was overly generous and rarely let anybody pick up the tab for lunch or dinner, which was cool because I really didn't want to pay most of the time anyway. He was a gifted natural athlete. He could pick up any sport really quickly, from wrestling to rock climbing, and make it appear as if he had been playing the sport for years. As an adult, he took up Muay Thai kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, adventure races, and once ran a 10-mile road race with no training on a win. I think he beat you, Kristen.
Thanks, Ray, for
No offense. He was an amazing carpenter who could transform discarded pallets into amazing furniture.